Hey guys, I'm on the ride here, and I didn't do a top 25 coasters at the end of 2022, so I figured I would do one before the 2023 season begins, so I can have my rankings before I ride everything this year, and then I can do it again after this year's over to see how much it changed. So let's get into it. Just a quick note, I count racing coasters like Gemini and Racer as 2 credits, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to put them as 1 coaster. In 25th place, we have Kentucky Flyer. This was a fairly enjoyable ride, and it was my first gravity group. I have nothing to complain about it. It's smooth, it has good pops of airtime, and a very loose theme, but in the end it is a family coaster, so I can't really rank it any higher. In 24th place, we have Backlot Stunt Coaster. I don't really know how this is considered a family coaster because of how intense that first helix is, but it's a fun and enjoyable ride, and I'm glad Kings Island has kept up the effects to make sure they still work. Unlike its sister parks, which don't really have the effects working. It's fun, but it is, however, smaller than other coasters on this list, and its restraints are not the best. In 23rd place, we have Rugru. This ride gets a lot of hate for no reason. I mean, it is overshadowed by all of the other great coasters at Cedar Point, however, it's an alright ride. I wouldn't rank it in my top 10, but it's still a good coaster. If I had to criticize one thing, it would be the corkscrew, which brought some headbanging, but not much was noticeable for the rest of the ride. It has a very, very loose theme, but the setting on the pond is pretty cool. In 22nd place is Gemini. Gemini is a fun ride for anyone, especially because you get to interact with the other train. There aren't really any forceful moments on this ride, but it's enjoyable nonetheless. For the sake of this video, I'm counting these as 1 coaster, but in my opinion the blue side is better because of the awesome head chopper. I wouldn't go into this ride expecting much, but it would make a great first coaster. In 21st place is Wicked Twister. I only got 1 ride on this before Cedar Point decided to replace it with Wild Mouse, but it was still a great ride. It wasn't the tallest or fastest by any means, but it still delivered an enjoyable experience. The feeling going backwards up the twisted spike was really what made this ride stand out to me. Nothing much considering its short layout, but it was still a great coaster. In 20th place, we have Flight of Fear at Kings Island. I really love the feeling of not knowing where you're going, especially when the ride-ups say some jokes before sending you off into abyss of nothingness. Except the nothingness is full of craziness, so I guess it's not really nothingness. Even though there are 4 inversions, I can really only feel the last corkscrew before the brakes, which besides the launch is my favorite part of the ride. Coming to a full stop on the mid-course and the restraints are the only thing I can look down on this ride for. In 19th place is Vortex. Yet another defunct coaster on my list. Let's be honest, Vortex wasn't praised until they decided to announce its closure. I only got to ride it once, and that was on the last day of operation, but I truly enjoyed this ride. Many people complained about its headbanging, but personally, I didn't feel much on my ride. To this day, it is my favorite era looper, and what could rival that? Anaconda? I don't think so. In 18th place is Intimidator. It wasn't a bad ride, but I wouldn't call it good either. The first ride I got on it was pretty early in the morning, and I didn't get any airtime, so I figured I would give it some time to warm up and get a redemption ride. But when I came back later, it wasn't any better. It just kinda glides through the layout, and you don't really get any forces. In 17th place is The Beast. This ride has a long story in my rankings. When I first rode it, I absolutely hated it because of how rough it was. Then I got a ride on it after the retracking, and I was amazed by this ride. It's not the most forceful ride, and it's not the best, but it's just such a legendary ride in the industry, and I respect it for that. I've gotten a dusk ride on it, which was really amazing, but I haven't been able to get a full night ride, so I'm really excited to do that. In 16th place, we have Val Raven. This was my first and only dive coaster, and it was a good ride. A lot of people hate on dive coasters because of their short and simple layouts. However, I think that they're pretty cool. I haven't got a front row ride on this, and it was closed when I last visited, but I can see this moving up a place or 2 when I do. In 15th place, I have Gatekeeper. When I went into this, I expected a cool experience with being on the side of the track, hence the name Wing Coaster, but I was slightly disappointed. It wasn't what I expected, and I'm not sure what I expected, but besides that, this ride gives some great hang time on the drop, especially in the front row. Don't expect to get a head chopper on the keyholes, because for me, it didn't feel that close. In 14th place, I have Banshee. Banshee is a good invert, and you can really feel the speed while riding this. The elements are smooth, and that's what sets it apart from other inverts. The inline twist gives some good hang time, but it lacks the whippiness of other old school B&M inverts. This is the only B&M that I don't like the vest restraints on, so watch out for that. In 13th place, I have Raptor. Raptor is another great B&M invert in Ohio, however Raptor's old school B&M whip sets it apart from Banshee, and I really enjoy this ride. The mid-course brake run is the only thing that I don't enjoy about this ride because it stops the intensity a little bit. But other than that, it's an overall great ride. In 12th place is Magnum XL200. This is a weird roller coaster. You either enjoy it or you hate it, and personally, I enjoy it. I appreciate it for what it is and its innovation during its time period. There's no other coaster that you can get Triangle Hill airtime pain than this. It's truly one of the best coasters I've ridden. In 11th place is Afterbirth. What a great invert. Takes everything wrong with the two I ranked below this and fixes it. This coaster is very similar to Montu, which is widely considered the best B&M invert. The only thing bad about this ride is when it makes its way over the station, which is pretty boring. Trenches were new to me and I thought they were pretty cool on this ride. The theme is kind of loose, but with Aeronautica coming, I think the whole area will look a lot better. Now we're in my top 10. In 10th place is Copperhead Strike. The launches may not be the fastest, but they were still enjoyable. This is the king when it comes to hang time. You don't wait but 5 seconds before it starts its incredible and thrilling ride with its JoJo roll. The end of the ride kinda meanders around and isn't the best, but hey, I can't complain much considering everything else it has to offer. In 9th place we have Lightning Run. This ride is short but sweet, and man do those airtime hills pack a punch. The second you crest the lift hill, this thing is non-stop. If you're not out of your seat with the strongest airtime I've experienced, you're being dragged down with its incredible G-force. The last ejector hill before the brakes tries to send you to space, even more than Magnum's Triangle Hills. The only thing I noticed is that I wasn't a big fan of the restraints because by the end of the ride I was stapled, and the operations didn't help with that either. In 8th place we have Mystic Timbers. Where do I even start? There's absolutely nothing wrong with this GCI. It may not be the fastest, but you sure do feel the speed it has. The airtime is incredible, especially on a warm summer day. It may not be the tallest, but it delivers everything it's got. The setting over the water is perfect, and the theming, including the shed, was not disappointing. For Cedar Fair's level of theming, this was one of the best. In 7th place, we have Diamondback. This is a great coaster, I have nothing to complain about. The airtime is so amazing because of the staggered seating, you get an open seat wherever you sit. My favorite place to ride is the back row because you get yanked over those hills. It's incredible. In 6th place, we have Millennium Force. This is a very forceful ride and I don't see how people can call this forceless. That drop is insane, and while it doesn't have good airtime, it still has good positive Gs. For being the first ever Giga Coaster, I think that it is good as they could make it. Not really in a specific theme, just to itself, I guess. In 5th place is Fury 325. This ride was very overrated, and while it wasn't a bad ride, it just wasn't what people made it out to be. All it is just speed and banking with an underwhelming helix and a few airtime pops at the end. I truly hope I got this on a bad day and that it's much better when I get to go back. Hopefully. In 4th place is Orion. This coaster is pure bliss. The drop is amazing, the wave turn isn't the best element, but it works. B&M stepped out of their shell, and I'm alright with the variety of elements on this coaster. The best part is the speed hill, which gives incredible sustained ejector airtime, and the twisted airtime hill before the brakes, which gives a good pop of ejector. Many people hate this ride, and I don't see why. I'm probably gonna get a ton of hate for putting this over Fury, however, I just think Orion is better. There's a full video on my channel explaining why I like Orion better, so I'm not gonna get into it much. In 3rd place is Storm Chaser. Is 100 feet enough to make an elite coaster? Yes it is. This coaster does everything it possibly could with its height. Some of the best airtime I've experienced was on this coaster. The barrel roll down drop is insane in the back row. I was able to marathon this 7 times in a row because the park was dead. Theming on this coaster is pretty much non-existent except for storm sounds being played in the speakers in the queue. In 2nd place is Maverick. What even is this ride? It's so crazy there are times I don't even know what's going on. The drop on this is something that I never thought I would experience on a coaster. The whip on the I-305 style turns is crazy, and that ejector is quite possibly the best airtime I've experienced. The second launch is very forceful, as is the rest of the ride. I can't put this into words, you're just gonna have to ride it and find out yourself. And number 1 is Steel Vengeance. Obviously Steel Vengeance is my number 1. I'm not that big of an Orion fan. Do I really have to explain this much? Because I'm pretty sure you've heard every other enthusiast praise this coaster at some point. The best word to describe this is airtime. If I had to pick the best element, it's probably the Outer Bank. But anyways, we'll see how much this list changes this season, and yeah, that's pretty much all. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed.